Beaufort, South Carolina, the summer of 1848. A place where magnolia trees shaded courtyards lined with iron fences, and justice was a word reserved for the powerful. In a world where skin color defined destiny, one man dared to rewrite fate in silence. His name was Isaiah. Born on the Halberd plantation, Isaiah had lived 30 years under the shadow of Judge William Halberd, a man celebrated across the Carolinas for his stern rulings and moral sermons. To the public, the judge embodied order and discipline. To those who served in his house, he was a tyrant, a man who measured worth by obedience and punishment. Isaiah was no ordinary laborer. He was literate, secretly taught to read by the judge's late wife, Margaret, a kind woman who believed knowledge could redeem anyone. Before her death, she'd whispered to Isaiah one warning: "The judge hides sins darker than the swamp." Years passed, and Isaiah kept those words buried in his mind. Until one night, a fire broke out in the judge's library. Amid the chaos, Isaiah rushed to save the books and uncovered what no one was meant to see: a locked ledger hidden behind the false back of a cabinet. When he opened it, the truth hit like a thunderclap. The ledger listed the names of dozens of people sold under false records, not just slaves, but free blacks and even white orphans the judge had secretly trafficked to neighboring states. Behind each transaction was his signature, and sometimes the initials of his 5 sons, Charles, Henry, Matthew, Paul, and Elijah, each trained to inherit not justice but corruption. The ledger was the family's empire of sin. Isaiah understood what he held in his hands, not evidence for the law, because the law belonged to Halberd, but a weapon. And in the South of 1848, vengeance could not come from the courts. It had to come from the shadows. For months, Isaiah planned. He worked in silence, moving between the plantation house and the slave quarters, listening, memorizing, waiting. He studied each son, their weaknesses, their ambitions, their greed. Charles, the eldest, wanted his father's title. Henry, the banker, hid debts and secrets with local merchants. Matthew, a preacher, used the pulpit for politics. Paul, the overseer, was the most violent. Elijah, the youngest, sought to impress them all and failed. Isaiah saw what even their father didn't: the cracks in the Halberd dynasty. On a moonless night, Isaiah buried the ledger in a tin box beneath an oak near the marshes. Then he began the work that would end a family's name. Isaiah began with Henry, the son who controlled the plantation's finances. Using knowledge from the ledger, Isaiah sent anonymous letters to Henry's creditors, revealing falsified ledgers and unpaid loans. Within weeks, Henry's name was blacklisted, his partners withdrawing support. In desperation, Henry stole funds from his father's court accounts and was caught. The scandal reached Charleston papers. The judge's first son fell, disgraced. Isaiah turned next to Matthew, who used his church to justify his family's power. Isaiah slipped the judge's ledger pages into the church donation chest, where the deacon would find them. By Sunday, whispers filled the pews that their preacher's family sold souls for silver. Attendance dwindled, offerings vanished, and Matthew fled town under shame. Paul, the overseer, ruled through terror. Isaiah baited him with rumors of a planned escape, one that didn't exist. When Paul punished innocent workers, Isaiah lured him to the marshes in pursuit of a phantom runaway. There, Isaiah lit false torches, leading him deep into sinking mud. Paul vanished, the swamp swallowing him without a sound. The judge blamed the marsh, never suspecting the man who guided him there. Elijah, desperate to prove himself, stumbled upon his brother's misfortunes and sought his father's approval by investigating. Isaiah played him like a fiddle, revealing half-truths, that the judge's enemies were plotting rebellion, that the remaining ledger pages were worth a fortune. Elijah took the bait, attempting to sell those secrets to local politicians. When they proved forgeries, Elijah was arrested for fraud. The family's youngest heir was imprisoned. By winter, The halberd name was a whisper of disgrace. The judge, furious and paranoid, turned to the only man he thought he could still trust, Isaiah. He ordered Isaiah to burn all remaining records, unaware that Isaiah had already made 3 identical copies of the ledger and hidden them across Beaufort. Days later, the ledgers surfaced in newspapers and courthouse walls, signed by Judge Halberd himself. The judge was stripped of his seat, his property seized. His fortune crumbled under the same system he once ruled. Months after the trial, Isaiah stood by the oak where the tin box still rested. He unearthed the final copy of the ledger, sealed it again, and buried it deeper, not as evidence, but as memory. In a letter to Margaret Halberd's grave, he wrote, "Your kindness taught me freedom begins in the mind. Your husband's cruelty taught me how to use it." Isaiah vanished from Beaufort soon after. Some said he escaped north. Others whispered he became a teacher for freedmen years later. But one thing was certain: the Halberd bloodline, once proud and unbroken, ended not by the sword, but by a mind they had tried to chain. Beaufort, South Carolina, 1008. 148, black and white, misty streets, magnolia trees and iron fenced mansions. Isaiah, the enslaved man, standing by a candle-lit library, holding an old ledger, expression of calm intelligence. Judge Halberd's courthouse, tall columns, southern architecture, storm clouds gathering above. The marshes at night, with lantern lights flickering over water, eerie and silent. Isaiah burying the ledger under a large oak, moonlight cutting through branches. Final shot, the empty Halberd mansion, windows dark, symbolizing the end of a dynasty.